Welcome to the NHL Ice Guys. It's Thursday, November 30th, the end of the month, and we're going to hope to end it in style as we break down the Thursday night NHL hockey card. I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review, joined by Alex B. Smith and Dana Lane. Hopefully, Andrew McInnes will be joining us momentarily as well. Got a great card to talk about on this Thursday. Let's get right into it. We've got the top of the card, the LA Kings taking on the Washington Capitals, 1-2 on the betting rotation. Washington about a minus 130 home favorite in this game. The total sitting 5.5, shaded to the under, about minus 130 to minus 135 in that range. And really for the Washington Capitals, it's been a nice little run for this hockey team. They've played some better hockey. There's no question about that. As of late, a 4-2 win on Saturday against Toronto, and they really controlled that hockey game. And really for the Washington Capitals, Barry Trotz making the move to put Alex Ovechkin and Nick Backstrom together on their top line. And boy, 5 goals in 3 games for Ovechkin since that line change was made by Barry Trotz, and it seems to be working. I mean, load up Backstrom and Ovechkin on the top line and give this Washington Capitals a little bit more of a potent attack has worked for them the last few games, no question about that. So definitely Washington Capitals trending in the upward direction. I know the LA Kings treated a lot of our Ice Guys well the other night. A lot of us were on the LA Kings in some form as they opened up this road trip with an impressive victory against the Detroit Red Wings, 4-1 win for the Kings to start off this road trip. I get the feeling it's going to be a little bit more tougher, a little bit more difficult here for the LA Kings tonight, taking on a better Washington team and a Capitals team that's in very good form right now, playing some better hockey. So interesting game. I actually lean a little bit to Washington here as the home favorite in this game. I know LA got a nice win on the road the other night. That was against Detroit, though. I want to see if they can get the job done away from Staples Center against a little bit of a better team, one I trust a little bit more. So I think as long as this price remains where it is right now, we're talking in the minus 130 range here with Washington. The way they're playing right now, that's not a bad price whatsoever to want to endorse the Capitals here in this hockey game. We've got Dana Lane involved in the Washington-LA game as well as Andrew McInnes. When he gets with us, he'll be able to talk about this game. But Dana involved with Washington and LA tonight. Dana, good morning. How are you? What do you think about this game?
Well, I'll answer for Andrew. We both like Washington in this game, and I'll put a W in his or a check mark in his win column. The one thing about this, Ian, is that you never really know, especially with Washington, who I have not jumped off their bandwagon. These guys that all season long, I'm telling you, if I'm the Capitals, and especially Ovechkin, some of the veterans that they had all summer long, all they heard about was their demise. Well, that might have been true for a little bit, but there's just too much talent on this team. And I know there's some personality conflicts, and I get that. Some people suggest they're even better without Ovechkin, which I think is ridiculous. But once they put it all together, I mean, who wants to really play this team? I mean, in the postseason, I wouldn't for sure. I don't know also how to treat teams that have coming off of a pretty lengthy rest as the Capitals are. I mean, historically, the Capitals have not been good when they've had more than 3 days rest. But on the flip side of that, the Kings have dropped 6 of their last 7 when they've only had 1 day's rest. So the rest factor here, I kind of throw it out the window because I really just don't know how to react to it. I do see now that we do see minus $1.25 at Pinnacle. There is $1.30s. But there is some 25s out there, which I think is a fair number. And, the one thing about the Kings, Ian, is I've seen them live a couple times this year, and I leave always wondering, do they have that next level of compete? Are they able to reach down and go to that next level against the better teams? If you look at, yes, they've beaten Anaheim twice. I mean, that's not exactly. I mean, that's a team right next door. I want to know when they go on the road against the quality teams of this league, how do they do? Well, we've seen how they've done. They've lost to Vegas. They lost to Winnipeg. They lost to Boston, if you still call Boston a top team. They lost to San Jose. They lost to Tampa Bay. And this is all recent examples of when they step up in competition, which I think they're doing tonight. Washington has had a fantastic November. If they win tonight, they'll actually tie a franchise record for the most wins in the month of November. They'll be 10-4. They'll be 8-1 at home with a win. That's pretty good. I think a lot of people are sleeping on the Capitals right now. And let's not forget, defensively, they've allowed only 10 goals in their last 5 games. So I'm going to ride Washington and Holtby tonight because I'm starting to believe in these guys a little bit more, and especially against LA. So we're going to go with Washington minus $1.25 over LA.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good play. I mean, I think Washington undervalued here in this game. And you're right, LA Kings against a superior foe. Sometimes they got question marks. Although I will say this, LA's had a little bit of a development going on with their blue line. I mean, there's been some guys that have shown up and played pretty good, actually, pretty solid for them. We'll see how if they can withstand that against better competition tonight here in the Capitals. But the Fantenbergs, the Forborts, Folan, guys like that, that are depth defensemen on this Kings team, they've played pretty well. For this hockey team, we know Doughty's the big, the leader of that blue line. Muzzin, Martinez, those are the veterans of that LA Kings blue line. But those 3 guys in particular stepped up, played pretty solid. So we give the Kings credit for that. But again, they're going to have to be that solid defensive team, because again, that top line for the Kings has been really good. Kopitar's had a strong bounce back season, and someone talking about in the on Twitter, actually mentioning that I think he's taken some sort of prop for both Kopitar and Ovechkin to score a goal, both of them to score a goal in this hockey game tonight. It's not a bad prop because Kopitar's had a great season. He scored the other night. Ovechkin's been on fire these last 3 games since he's been paired with Backstrom on that top line. That's got a shot, I think, for that guy on Twitter that asked me about that. So not a bad little prop to look at. But Washington Capitals, I certainly liked that side, and Dana does as well tonight, about minus 125 to minus 130 in that game. Montreal, Detroit next up, 3-4 on the rotation. We got no line here. Montreal playing second night of back-to-backs. I'm not going to assume that we see the backup goalie here for the Montreal Canadiens. I think they could ride Price again. He's been out for a long time here for the Montreal Canadiens, but he's clearly on a roll since he's gotten back from that injury. He's played great hockey. Another nice win for Montreal, 2-1 last night against the Ottawa Senators. So real impressive stuff from him. We'll see if he's going to be back in between the pipes tonight for Detroit, even though it is a back-to-back situation. Obviously, that's something you're going to want to monitor closer to puck drop, but I'm probably not going to be involved from a betting perspective in this hockey game with Montreal in the second of back-to-backs. Detroit, to me, a team that I'm not going to trust in this spot, the way Montreal has been getting better play, better goaltending, with a little bit of momentum finally. But believe me, momentum has been hard to come by for the Montreal Canadiens this season, but they finally got a little bit of it the last few games with wins against Buffalo, Columbus, and Ottawa since the return of Carey Price to the fold. So I'm not going to be involved in this game. But again, if you like the Montreal side, just keep your eyes peeled on, websites like, leftwinglock.com, dailyfaceoff.com. Make sure you're checking who the starting goaltender assignments are going to be on a nightly basis to make sure whether you get Price in the game or not in that one. We've got Vancouver, Nashville, 5-6. Next up, we've got Nashville minus 185 as a home favorite in this game. The total 5.5 shaded to the over, about minus 115 to minus 120. And this very long, grueling road trip continues for the Vancouver Canucks. And I just don't know how much they've got left in their tank at this point. They looked a little tired, a little fatigued, a little beaten down physically the other night in that loss to the New York Islanders, 5-2. Didn't seem they had a lot of push. Didn't seem like they had a lot of energy. That's a little bit of a concern. If you're lacking energy now, and again, just one day between that game and this one here against this red-hot Nashville Predators team, that could end up being a little bit of a concern for me. All of a sudden, we've got a Vancouver team as well that on this road trip, boy, they've trended over the total. They've scored goals, but they've also given them up. I mean, this Vancouver team defensively, they've not, I don't want to say they've completely fallen apart, but they've not been sound in their own zone on this road trip. You've got every team pretty much, Pittsburgh, Philly, Rangers, Jersey, the Islanders the other night, scoring goals in bunches against this Vancouver team. We'll see if they can shore that up tonight. They're going to have to try to, because we know Nashville lately, in terms of offensive ability, has been getting the job done in terms of goal scoring. So we'll see if Vancouver's got it in them to A, bring more energy to the plate tonight, and B, give a better defensive effort, because they're going to have to. It's not been good enough in terms of their defense or their goaltending here for the majority of this road trip. And I know Travis Green has been a little bit frustrated by it, but I'm a little concerned for Vancouver here. It's been a long road trip. They've done a lot of traveling out east. Now you're playing this good Nashville team. You looked a little exhausted the other night against the Islanders. There didn't seem like there was a big push from them. So I'd be really, really worried about them in this spot tonight. This is not a live dog, in my opinion. I like to make a case usually for a dog of this magnitude. At times, Vancouver won't be one of them. Tonight on the card. Dana Lane's involved with Vancouver and Nashville on tonight's slate. Dana, with the Canucks and Preds, what do you see happening here?
I agree with most of everything that you said there, Ian. And, I think this game has offense written all over it. We see now that it's over 5.5, just shaded over minus $1.06, which is a fair price. You look at this Canucks team that hasn't been home in 12 days, and certainly against the Islanders, you could see where fatigue has started to take its toll a little bit. And not only would I look, certainly we're not going to bet the sides in this game, but when they get back home, I might look to play against them as well. In the 5-2 loss to the Islanders, there certainly was fatigue, which leads to offensive chances because of the sloppiness, and that's what I think that you're going to see tonight. They've allowed 4 goals or more in the last 3 games, or they average allowing 4 goals in the last 3 games. And 6 of their last 7 games have gone over the total. So there's no reason to go against that trend tonight. They face a Predators team that's won 10 of 13 games. 6 of the last 9 games have gone over the total. We also have talked about in the past how much emphasis that I put on power play units when you're betting the over and the under for that matter. But when you're betting the over, you better make sure that you have a decent power play unit on your side on both teams, which we do here. With Nashville, you're getting the best power play team in the league against the Canucks, who should give them plenty of chances. They're no stranger to putting themselves in the penalty box. So I think Nashville is going to get a bunch of chances on the power play, which is good for our over as well. And Vancouver, honestly, they're not that bad on the power play. I think they're middle of the pack in the NHL, but really they're not a team that you can say, well, we're not going to get anything from. So even if you get, a power play goal from them, that's still a plus for us in the over column. I just think in this game, everything points to the over. Top 2 lines for both of these teams, if you look at their numbers over the last 10 days, they've absolutely been sensational. There is absolutely no reason for me to take the under tonight. So we're going to over 5.5 minus $1.06.
Yeah, I was on Vancouver Islanders over the other night. I know Andrew McKinnis had that game as well, and it's just you can see it coming on this road trip. And the thing is, when you're tired, you're fatigued, you don't have your skating legs, it usually comes up and affects this as well. And when it starts affecting this, guess what? You make mistakes, and what are mistakes? Turnovers. And man, have we seen turnovers with the Vancouver Canucks here on this route. Just bad play, bad positioning, turning the puck over, throwing it into places where there's nobody but an opposing skater, and then the puck ends up in the back of their net. I've seen that kind of script unfold with the Vancouver Canucks time and time again on this road trip here for them. And I think exhaustion and fatigue, which I spoke about, which Dana spoke about, is a lot to do with it. When you make mistakes, it's usually on the defensive end more than it's the offensive end, and it goes hand in hand with fatigue. When you're tired, you make mistakes. Usually that shows up at the defensive end of the ice, and that's what's been happening here with Vancouver. That's why they're giving up 4 or 5 goals on a routine basis here on this road trip. So, yeah, we're both in agreement there. Over makes some sense. We got Andrew McKinnis here involved on the show and ready to roll. Let's see if he did not have, I said he had the LA Washington game. He did not, but he did have this Predators Canucks game. He did have the Kings and Capitals. Yes, he did have both of them. So we're going to go back to Andrew now. Now that he's joining us, he's ready to go because we talked about 2 of the games he's on already. Andrew, good morning. Thanks for being here and joining us here. We've got LA, Washington, Vancouver, Nashville. We've talked about those games already. You're involved. So tell us what you're looking at with the Kings, Caps, and the Canucks and the Predators here tonight.
Hey, good morning, guys. Sorry for being a little bit late. For just getting in the Kings and Capitals game, I'm on the under in this game. As far as goals go for these 2 teams right now, the Capitals just scoring 2.96 goals per game. Kings scoring 2.92 goals per game. But the under has gone the total has gone under in 8 of the last 9 Kings games. And look, this Kings team has been kind of sporadic for me. They've been kind of up and down. They've been hard to read. And if you look at this lineup, you look at these these top two lines. They're nothing special. They're nothing too sporadic for me. There's nothing too that jumps off the paper. Nothing that gets me too excited. So when I look at this LA Kings team, it's not really the team that really I think is going to just put up 4 goals and just fly the total over for me. So, and looking at this Capitals team, 8 of their last 12 games have gone under. They got a couple of injuries with Burakovsky, Lars Eller. Of course, with the Kings, they've got Jeff Carter out and Kyle Clifford. So, just looking at this matchup, guys, I just think these are two teams right now that are still finding themselves. I think the Washington Capitals, it's like Alex was saying actually on our last show. I mean, this is a team that's been known for doing so well the past couple of years, and they've made it so far. But when you make it so far every year and you still can't kind of complete that, you still can't go the distance, as you'd say in boxing or martial arts kind of thing, you have to really wonder what you're kind of going to expect out of your team right now. And I think that Washington has to move to winning those 2-1 and 3-1 kind of games and kind of move away from those track meet style games. So in my opinion, coming into this game, is going to be 2 goalies that are going to be ready to go. They're rested. They're ready to go. And this should be a low-scoring game, in my opinion, guys.
All right, so under for Andrew McInnes and the LA Washington. Hey, Vancouver and Nashville. Next game up for you, Andrew. What are you looking at there in that one?
Nashville. Yeah, well, I'm really liking the over in that game. I just think, in my opinion, like I said, I think Nashville has really transitioned into an over team. I think that they're one of those teams. I mean, if you watch their decor, I mean, I'm so impressed every time I watch the Predators. You watch their decor, the way that they move that puck up to their forwards, it's second to none. It's one of those things where you really have to be watching specifically to see how fast their defensemen get the puck out of their own end. They don't really try and be too fancy with the puck. They don't try and hold it too often. They're not messing around too much. They strictly get the puck up to their forwards and let them do their jobs. But even if they're not doing that, there's players like Yossi, Subban, that are just moving that puck up on their own. And let's talk about this depth at the center position. You got Johansson and Bonino, and you've now got Kyle Turris. I mean, let's talk for a second about that trade between Turris and Duchesne. It's a clear win right now for Nashville, I think. I mean, look, Ottawa gave away the barn. They traded away a lot of draft picks and stuff like that. And so far, Matt Duchesne, to use the famous Ian Cameron quote, I mean, we're going to have to send out a search party for his offense because we haven't really seen much from him whatsoever. And, you can only bash on a guy, after so long, and you can only give him so much leeway. But guys, I mean, how long is it going to be until we see something out of him? I mean, he's had the power play opportunities. He's had those big game moments, 2 minutes left, 30 seconds left, a minute left in the game. The coach puts him out there. Guy Boucher puts the faith in him. I believe he's even had a shootout attempt, if I'm not wrong, and he just hasn't been able to light the lamp. But look, in my opinion, coming to this game, I think the Predators are going to come out with a win, but I just think that they push the pace too much, and this game is going to be just competitive. And cashing that over with the Canucks and the Islanders on our last SBR show. It was a 5-2 win for the Islanders. But when you look at an over team, you're not always looking at how many goals they score. You look at how many goals they're giving up. And this Canucks team, I really am not a fan of their decor whatsoever, guys. Look, their forwards are young. They know how to score. They're exciting. I think they can create opportunities for themselves. They can light the lamp. They can be there. And the future is there for these guys. I mean, like I said, I know I keep repeating myself on this, but in my opinion, I'm impressed by it. With these Sedins being on the third line, it shows maturity for them, accepting that there's new, younger guys that want to come in. They have that first line role. They're coming in, and not even just the younger guys. You got guys like Thomas Vanek that are just kind of taking on that first line role. And in my opinion, this Canucks team is just an over team. Whether or not they're going to put up 1 goal, Ian, or they're going to put up 4 goals, I think that they're too sloppy in their own end with the puck. Their defense holds on to the puck way too long, and this Predators team knows how to capitalize. Watching this Predators team 2 nights ago, it really showed to me They deserve to be exactly where they finished last year in the NHL playoffs. They were exactly where they were supposed to be because they are so well-rounded. They've got a great goaltender in Pekka Rinne. Their defense know exactly what they're doing. They don't make too many mistakes. They don't take too long with the puck. They make decisions very quickly. And last but not least, they run their lines. They run their, every shift, every line on that Nashville Predators team. It's about a 45-second shift, maybe 30 to 45-second shift. And they are speedy. They are quick. Maybe a couple of years ago, I would want to tell all of you guys, this Nashville team is an under team. Absolutely. This Nashville team's going to come out and win 2-1 tonight. But when I see this Predators and Canucks matchup, guys, I think this flies over the total of 5.5.
All right, so there we go. Clean sweep on the over in this game, Vancouver and Nashville. And look, Andrew talked about the blue line. It's true. I mean, Alex Edler's good. He's one guy I legitimately want on my team. Derek Pouliot, though, Delzato, don't forget it with Delzato. I mean, Delzato's a guy that's never played great defensively in his own zone. That's always been his issue. I know he can skate. He can lug the puck a little bit, but that's never been a strong suit for him. Troy Stetcher, Hutton's okay. Tanev. But, Eric Goodbranson being out hurts them, too. I think they're worse defensively in their own zone without Goodbranson. Goodbranson's just one of those guys that usually in his own zone can be pretty sound, but without him, it's gotten even worse for the Canucks from a defensive standpoint. So I agree. And then you've got Markstrom and Nilsson, who have been pretty good, let's be honest, for most of the season. But do you really expect that to continue all season long? Markstrom and Nilsson, these two goalies, to be consistent in between the pipes? I'm not so sure about that. So you put it all together, and you got a team that's struggling to keep the puck out of their own net and struggling to keep the red light off right now, and that's the Vancouver Canucks. Next up, we've got Vegas and Minnesota, 7-8 on the rotation. We've got the Minnesota Wild as, I don't know, laying this. How many times do we have to see Minnesota? Do we have to put Minnesota out there as a -165 favorite every game at home? Do we have to do that? I mean, holy goodness, every freaking game. And you look at the way they're playing right now, it just drives you nuts. Is the XL Energy Centers the freaking haunted house for the league or something? Come on here. What's going on? I mean, Minnesota -165 here at home. The total 5.5, actually more sixes across the board, shaded to the under in this game. 6 under -125. Look, I know Vegas on the road is not what they are at home. I know Vegas did not have one of their better games, and that's putting it mildly, the other night against Dallas, getting shut out by the Stars, and maybe there's going to be a reversal of fortune coming for the Golden Knights and in the next few weeks as the schedule gets tough, and they've got a tough schedule coming up, no question. But are the Minnesota Wild confident enough, playing well enough to trust them in this kind of price range on home ice, even though Bruce Boudreau called them out for a bad loss against the Winnipeg Jets the other night? It was horrific. I mean, that team completely flat out just mailed it in after they fell behind against the Jets the other night. Okay, if there is a spot that you have to assume Minnesota shows you as something, shows you an A game, shows you their absolute best foot forward and best effort, you would think it's going to be here. I'm not laying -165 to figure that one out, though. Not even close. Sure, they might show up. Sure, maybe they're going to put forth finally a complete 60-minute effort, which Bruce Boudreau has been hounding this team to do. But I'm not laying this kind of price in any way, shape, or form to find that out. Not even maybe. So for me, at this price point, actually, it would be Vegas or pass. I know Alex B. Smith's involved with his Minnesota Wild. He's right there, ear to the ground when it comes to the Wild, living in Minnesota. He might be at this game, too, tonight, from what he told me earlier. Vegas, Minnesota, Alex B. Smith, what you looking at here?
Yeah, I might go. I mean, there's some good games to watch on TV tonight too, but I might attend this one live possibly. But yeah, you look at this. I don't understand. I'm in the same boat as you, and I don't understand where the books get off still having the Wild as $1.50, $1.60, $1.70 or higher favorite at home. He said XL Energy Center is certainly not a house of horrors for a lot of teams that come in. Yes, it's usually always a near sold out crowd. I think tonight might be a little different because they're playing the expansion team in Vegas. So there's be a lot of idiots that'll be there saying, "Oh, I forgot Vegas got a team this year." So with that being said, it's not gonna be a super rowdy or raucous crowd like normal. It's not like a Chicago or Nashville coming into town, and I think that's gonna help with Vegas. I think that's probably why we're seeing them do pretty, like I said, fairly well, at least in the Western Conference against teams on the road. They've won 5 of the last 6 against the West. They've won 12 of the last 14 overall within the conference. So like I said, yeah, Minnesota, you expect them to bounce back after a horrible outing against a division team here, but this seems to be like possibly a bit of a letdown as well. because of the fact that they're not playing one of their rivals. It seems like they play down the teams that they need to play up for, even though we're talking about a team that leads the Pacific Division. So where their mindset comes, we'll see it within the first 10, 15, 20 minutes of this game. But like you said, at this price, the only way I'm looking at this would be Las Vegas.
Yep, Vegas Golden Knights looking to bounce back themselves. I mean, everybody's talking about, it's a huge bounce back spot for Minnesota. It's a bounce back spot for Vegas, too. Let's not forget what happened to them in their last game. So let's calm down here with, Minnesota bounce back time after getting throttled in Winnipeg the other night. It's bounce back for Vegas, too. And if you ask me, Gerard Gallant teams are teams I want to back coming off a loss like that. So we'll see. At this price, it's Vegas or nothing. I'm actually not personally going to get involved because, again, Vegas has not been quite as good on the road, obviously, at home. We know Minnesota, if they're going to show you something, you would think it's tonight after that debacle in Winnipeg. But again, that price is not even close to getting me interested in the Minnesota Wild side in that game. Take a walk on the Minnesota Wild side. I'm not doing that tonight. Dallas and Chicago, 9-10 on the rotation. We've got Chicago minus 130 home favorite. Total about, again, we got 1.5 at Heritage, shaded to the over. Everywhere else it's 6 heavily shaded to the under, about minus 125 to minus 130 in that range. I'll tell you what, the Dallas Stars team is starting to really get things going a little bit. And the fact that they shut out Vegas on the road, nobody's been winning in Vegas. Dallas, their one bugaboo this season, team-wide, including Ben Bishop, was that collectively they were not playing good enough hockey on the road. Well, they've righted that ship the other night with that nice shutout win against the Vegas Golden Knights. They're playing good. I actually think they're a little bit live in this hockey game. I know Chicago's playing pretty well right now, scoring goals, no question, although they finally got taken down a bit. Tough back-to-back spot for them the other night against the Nashville Predators, 3-2 hockey game there. There's no doubt Chicago, is finding some offense finally. They've been a weird team offensively. They started out the season red hot, scoring goals. Then they went into this massive malaise and struggle to put the puck in the net. And now all of a sudden the offense is fired back up again in recent games. But this Dallas team is starting to buy what Ken Hitchcock is selling on the defensive end of the ice. They've played better at that end in recent games. That was a good performance from Bishop the other night in the win against Vegas. I'm kind of tempted by the Stars underdog price. I like the way this team's trending right now. Might be looking at that side. What's Alex looking at, the Hawks fan in the room with the Dallas Stars taking on his Chicago Blackhawks tonight? Alex, what do you got?
It's kind of been a fade with the Hawks when they're playing a division team. They've lost 5 of their last 7, but you got to look at Dallas. They've lost 6 of their last 7 against the Central Division. So 2 teams that really should be trying to take care of business within within their own realm, and they're not doing so right now. But you look at the Hawks; they played a really tough game. I had a little bit on that Nashville side, even though it's a really high price. But I played about a half unit on that, and they got the 3-2 win over the Hawks. Except fading the Hawks on the back-to-back has been profitable this year. But I think now you're going to see Crawford back in net. The Hawks have won 5 straight against Dallas. They've won 6 of the last 9 against Dallas at the United Center. I think we're going to see a much better effort. And this is a really decent price for the Hawks at home, minus $1.25, minus $1.30. You usually see them at a much higher range, as chalk at home. So I would look at taking the Hawks here tonight. I think we're going to see a really spirited effort. And then, of course, keep in mind these 2 teams will play again in Dallas on Saturday. So, that rapid revenge theory might see a decent price where you want to look at backing Dallas on Saturday.
All right, so Chicago for Alex B. Smith on that one. Dana Lane, obviously, and he mentioned it in the chat just now. It's a good point. Dad's trip for the Dallas Stars. I mean, that's always something you want to be keeping an eye on for sure. You always get these players that, they don't want to embarrass themselves and shit their pants and soil themselves in front of Popsy. That's not something that they take fondly of doing that. They want to play pretty well in front of Father. And that was the case for Dallas the other night because they were on that in the house at T-Mobile for that game against Vegas, and the dads were rewarded with a great complete 60-minute performance from the Dallas Stars. So for Alex B. Smith at Chicago, I'll say for me it's going to be Dallas. I like the momentum they've got going right now. We'll see how that one plays out there. Dallas is about plus 110. Plus 116 at Heritage Sports if you like that side. If you like the Chicago side, you can get Chicago for minus 129 at Heritage, minus 125 at Pinnacle, and it's pretty much minus 130 elsewhere. But again, use SBRodds.com. It's very important. That's the place you need to be on a regular basis before you're locking in these wagers so that you can get the best price and best number possible with whatever side and whatever total you're looking at. We've got Arizona-Calgary next up, 11-12 on the rotation. Calgary laying a massive number, 2-1, minus 200. Favorite pretty much across the board, about minus 200, 210 as home chalk. Total 6 shaded to the under. Arizona Coyotes, again, a game effort the other night against the Edmonton Oilers. In fact, had a third period lead in that hockey game. Could not hold it. Edmonton ties it late and then wins in overtime 3-2. Tough loss for the Arizona Coyotes. Scott Wedgwood, the goalie in that game, probably the goalie again tonight, ended up saying it's a game we should have won. They probably should have, but unfortunately, when you're having a season like Arizona's had, sometimes you just find ways to lose, and they've found ways to lose on more than a few occasions, just a few more occasions this season. But a tough loss for Arizona. But Calgary, is again, we're talked about it in the chat here as well. This team's had trouble really stringing any sort of consistency together. There's been games where their offenses look great and their defenses look shaky, and then there's been reverse times where they've been defensively okay. Mike Smith plays well, and he played well against Toronto, I thought, the other night, Mike Smith. But the offense was completely shut down by the Toronto Maple Leafs in that 4-1 loss at home the other night. Not very good from a Calgary Flame perspective. Really impressive by Toronto from their standpoint, because you could count the number of times Calgary had sustained attack pressure, sustained zone time in the Toronto zone on one finger, really, how many times that happened. That's how good that's either how good Toronto was defensively the other night or how porous the Calgary offensive attack and thrust was in that particular hockey game. So it depends on how you want to look at it. But either way, it was not the effort that I'm sure Glenn Gulletson or the Flames were happy about coming out of that Toronto game. We'll see if they right the ship. This is supposed to always be a get-well type of opponent. When you face the Arizona Coyotes, we'll see if the Calgary Flames have that kind of performance in them in this game here tonight. It's a game I'm staying far away from. We'll see. Arizona to me has played a little bit more stingier. I mean, Rick Tocchet was talking about letting the horses out of the stable and letting them go up and down the ice. We're seeing them sort of try to play more tighter in recent games. They've kept the shots on goal lower. That's been a trend lately. So I'm not in any rush to bet this game up and over the total, especially at 6 and minus 120. In fact, I think there might be some value to the under in this game. 6, especially if you can get that 6 at minus 120. That would be a lean in my direction there, under the total 6 in this hockey game between Arizona and Calgary tonight. And we're going to wrap it up with Toronto taking on Edmonton. Last game on the slate, 13-14 on the rotation. We've got Edmonton. Toronto now has moved into a slight road favorite position here, about minus 115 on the road, total 6, pretty much under minus 115 to minus 120 across the board. Let's give the Leafs credit. I mean, they started the road trip in Western Canada Tuesday night against Calgary. We just mentioned it, a 4-1 win. Perfect road game for Toronto. I mean, they absolutely choked off Calgary at the pass. They didn't get anything sustained going offensively in that hockey game. Penalty kill was great. They capitalized on their chances. Frederik Andersen, another terrific night for him in net, one of many. Frederik Andersen's been absolutely one of the top 2 or 3 goaltenders in the NHL this season on his performance. He's been great. I remember him stealing a game for Toronto last week against Carolina, when Carolina had almost 50 shots on goal in that hockey game. Freddie Andersen's been terrific, absolutely outstanding, getting elite-level goaltending right now. Toronto is from Frederik Andersen. He was good again the other night, but that was a good team effort. Defensively, that was one of their better efforts in front of Frederik Andersen in quite some time. I mean, Mike Babcock, you don't usually have him saying a heap of praise after a win, but he was totally praising this team for that complete effort against Calgary the other night. We'll see if they can follow it up here against Edmonton. If they have anything close to that effort against Calgary here against Edmonton, they win this game. There's no question about that. The question is, can they do it again one more time? Edmonton, they've now won a couple of games in a row, feeling good. It was not a great performance for them by any stretch against Arizona, but they got it out in overtime win. They'll take it. They'll take 2 points no matter how they get it at this point, because they know they've got a lot of ground to make up. They're going to get back in this Western Conference wildcard chase and playoff picture. But still, where are the big guns Where is the big gun? Matt Benning and Zach Kassian were your goal scorers. They're in regulation time the other night. I mean, we're still waiting for this team to really explode at you offensively. It's starting to become an issue now that maybe the depth of scoring and the forward depth to put the puck in the net just maybe isn't there for this Oilers team this season. It's something we've really got to start to ponder and question in terms of whether this team does have that depth of scoring that maybe either they had it last year and now no longer do, or maybe it's the same group and they're just not getting it done right now. But either way, this has been a massive offensive drop-off from the Oilers this season. And the way Toronto played defense the other night, it's going to be interesting to see if they can get that offense going tonight. But, yeah, until Edmonton shows me a better performance, especially after what I saw against Arizona the other night, I'm a little bit reluctant to back them here tonight against this Toronto team, which played well to start this road trip. Alex B. Smith, he's got something to talk about with this Leaf Oilers game. Alex, what do you think here out in Alberta?
I'm going with the road team tonight with Toronto. Like you said, Edmonton, you look at it, okay, 2 games in a row, but they're playing, like I said, had to take a bad Arizona team in the overtime to beat them. And then before that, they played a Boston Bruins team that was, still on the mend, missing a few guys. They got, those guys have come back now. But, you look at, before that, they lost 6 of the last 8. So this is a team that I'm not really high on. I'm not sure why this price was even around to pick them. And now you're looking at the fact that Cam Talbot might not even start in this game. Stories and reports are saying that he's tweaked something in his back, and there's been a flu bug going around with the Edmonton locker room as well. So I like Toronto in this spot, and I would definitely grab them sooner than later, because if Talbot doesn't go and it's Laurent Brossoit, their backup goalie, who made 3 starts, lost all 3 of them, this price is only going to go up and up for the Maple Leafs. So I like Toronto in that spot, and definitely would grab them quick.
All right, so there we go. Toronto Maple Leafs for Alex B. Smith. And you're right, we may not see Cam Talbot in net tonight. That's something, again, check out your starting goaltender assignments at a couple of those websites I mentioned. You want to be on top of that. You might see Laurent Brossoit sighting tonight for the Edmonton Oilers. Dana Lane has also got some betting action on this Oilers-Leafs game tonight. Dana, what are you looking at here in Edmonton?
Well, again, this is a Toronto team that lost to Arizona. So, and not only did they lose, they lost in convincing fashion, and then they washed that down with another loss to the Florida Panthers a few days back. I mean, I understand, where everybody's coming from on this, but honestly, I mean, through the middle, which is where you want to be the strongest, I think the Edmonton Oilers have not played that bad. I mean, Connor McDavid certainly has been everything as advertised this season. He's had a fantastic year. If you look at Ryan Nugent-Hopkins and Draisaitl in the last 10 days, I mean, their numbers have been right where you kind of want them to be. Draisaitl's kind of taken a while to get into the fold. I mean, early in the season, I mean, he was almost non-existent, but right now in this last 10 games, he's had 7 points. So most of it coming on the 5 of it coming on the assist. So, but he is point-wise getting into it. It's their supporting cast. It's, you're going to put Puljujärvi on the top line. Well, he's not producing. Milan Lucic has played well. But, again, it's not one of those units. And I look at as one unit where one portion of it not can be
I think Dana's fading on us here, yeah.
To cause the production. Things are a little bit of a mess. Question right now. I do think
Dana's turned into the robot man here. There,
Having some UFO interference out there.
I think he's been abducted here. Dana, his face is That's too fun. All right, let's get this show back on the trail. I think he liked Edmonton anyway. That's the gist of that, as far as I'm concerned. I think that's what he was going for. The Edmonton Oilers. I got to tell Dana, exit the Google Hangout and come back in. But yeah, I think he likes the Edmonton Oilers in this game, and you know what? He was against Toronto the other night too with Calgary. It didn't work out well, but he's gonna try to bang his head against the wall one more time, trying to go against Toronto tonight here as they take on the Edmonton Oilers. So we'll see. It's going to be Alex on Toronto, Dana on Edmonton in that hockey game. Andrew McInnes wanted to mention something about the Dallas-Chicago game, so let's give him the floor to do that. Andrew, what do you want to mention here?
Well, Mr. Cameron, I know yesterday I tuned into your show with Mr. Gabriel Morency, and I know there was a little bit of chatter about us ice guys here getting a little bit more leans on more games and talking about more games with you. So I think between Alex, Dana, and I think we're more than happy. I think Alex would agree. We're more than happy to give some leans on more games than just the games that we email. So look, just looking at this game real quick, both of the guys had opinions on this game, but here's the thing about Dallas right now. I think Dallas was very hyped coming into the season. Everyone loved Dallas. They said, wow, they got a great goaltender. The defense is pretty good, but they should have the firepower. They should have it, and the chemistry should be getting there. And Radulov was just the icing on top of the cake. And then with the start to this season, they couldn't really put a beach ball inside a soccer net. And now all of a sudden people think they're a good team just because they're actually playing the way that they should be playing. And I always find that funny. It's like if a team starts to play really well, they start the season off on a great note, and then they go back to earth. I like to use that phrase, come back to earth and start to play like we expect them to play. Then people are shocked, and this is kind of the opposite of that with Dallas, where they started off a little bit iffy. They weren't putting up too many good numbers. And now all of a sudden they're scoring goals, and Ben Bishop is playing the way that we expect him to play. And people are surprised by that. But heading over to the Chicago side, this is where I'm really, really liking Chicago. This is literally, I don't know if this is more of a stats kind of breakdown whatsoever. This is simply on a hunch. I like teams when they're pissed off, Ian. I like teams when they're angry. And I had a tweet about this after the Hawks game, and I did only tune in for about a period and a half in that game against Nashville. But look, in the period and a half that I watched, it looked like the epitome of what you would see for a team in a back-to-back. And Dana loves to talk about this. I think Dana said a couple weeks ago on our show that you can't just look at a back-to-back and think, oh, a team's on a back-to-back, they're going to come out and play the crappiest game they've played all year and they're going to be tired. But you know what? That's exactly what Chicago really did in the late half of that game versus Nashville. They were not prepared. They did not have energy. Patrick Kane took a stupid penalty. They were not moving their feet whatsoever. And I think this is a team that's they've got the age that it's too old of a team to really fall for that trap. And I think coming into this game versus Dallas, I think they're a lot more exciting. Their depth has just been there all year long. I mean, like I said, Dallas is coming. They're coming along right now, but they're not that team that they've been overhyped. And before the game started, before the season started, people had their preseason NHL rankings, Western Conference, Eastern Conference, full season, full league even, and they were loving the Dallas Stars. But let's give some respect here to the Blackhawks tonight. I think that they're going to come in here angry in this spot. They're going to come in here focused. They've got some rest now. And that back-to-back spot versus Nashville was not who the Chicago Blackhawks team is, especially after dismantling the Minnesota Wild. So, in my opinion, I think I like the Blackhawks tonight.
All right, the aliens have released Dana Lane from their evil clutches. He's back with us now in good shape. He looks like he hasn't been harmed too badly. So thank God. Thank you for rescuing him for us. We appreciate that. All right, we've got to get to best bets. We're short on time. We're short on a racetrack here, so let's get to it. Best bets for Thursday. Let's start Dana Lane now that he's back with us. Best bet for Thursday night.
Yeah, you better get to me before I don't have internet for some reason. I don't know. I was going on for 30 minutes. Look, I'm going back to Washington. I love the Capitals. I think that they're trending in the right direction. I like them at home. I think getting 10 wins in a month means something to them. And I think once we roll around the playoff time, I think Barry Trotz is going to be pretty happy with the way his team is going into the postseason. So no reason for me to play LA tonight. I'm still going to ride Washington, which I seem to be doing quite a bit lately.
All right, Washington Capitals for Dana Lane. Andrew McInnes, your best bet tonight.
Well, look, guys, this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think that Montreal has, they hadn't been scoring nearly as much as they're capable of throughout the entire season. You look, they're averaging 35 shots per game. They've got Price coming back right now. He's played exceptional, and not only is that helping them win games, but it gives them confidence. It makes them feel more comfortable, feel more loose out there in the ice to play their game. Detroit averaging just 2.8 goals per game, 31 shots a game. But in my opinion, I like the over in this. It's kind of funny. I was just talking about how you don't want to read too much into back-to-back spots, but I think with this Montreal team and how well they've been performing in front of Carey Price, and I believe we're going to see Niemi in nets for the Habs tonight. I just think this is a good spot. Detroit's been struggling recently. And when you're struggling, you really fire everything on net. I mean, when you're struggling to put the puck in the back of the net, or you're struggling to even gather a W under your belt, the last thing you want to do is to be just too specific about what you're doing. I mean, the total has gone under in 5 of Montreal's last 5 games. It's just simple things like that. The total has gone under in 4 of Montreal's last 5 games when playing Detroit. And I think this Detroit team, the way they started this season, they've proved to us they can score. They do have that firepower, and I think their power play will be lethal tonight. I think the Habs will make some defensive mistakes. I've said I hate the defense core right now for this Montreal Canadiens team. I think they're going to give up a lot of chances. There's going to be a lot of odd man rushes in this game. It's going to be a pretty sloppy one to watch, guys. But I like the over in the Wings and Habs game at 5.5.
Yeah, quick injury note, too, for Montreal. Shea Weber may return to the lineup tonight. Charles Hudon is out. He got injured the other night, and it looks like Jonathan Drouin will also not be in tonight for the Montreal Canadiens. So a couple of things to monitor there in terms of injuries for them and absences for this game tonight against Detroit. But the over is what Andrew's looking at there. No side or total yet, but I assume we're going to probably get 5.5. I would think usually with Detroit involved, you'll probably see 5.5 there over the total. Alex B. Smith, your best bet.
Well, I'm going right back to the game with Vegas and Minnesota tonight. Like I said, this still way too high of a price in my opinion for this one Minnesota team right now. Vegas, this is a team they haven't played yet, so they've done pretty well. And like I said, the first go around, we'll see how things happen in the second rotation round. We talked about that last episode. I remember Dana mentioning that once teams have a book on the Golden Knights, how will they fare? But so far the Wild, they have nothing on them. So coming into this won't be super hostile environment. I think Vegas gets the job done at a fair price, so I'm laying with the Golden Knights.
All right, Vegas is a big dog for Alex B. Smith. My best bet, Vancouver, Nashville over 5.5. We've talked about it. Canucks are tired. And when you're tired, you make defensive mistakes more than anything else. And we've seen it over and over on this trip. Nashville scoring goals. That Turris, Johansson, a Bonino trio up down the middle at center ice. I love it. They're scoring goals. They're feeling good. They should be able to attack this Vancouver team. Help this game get over the total. We're going to go Vancouver, Nashville over 5.5. My best bet for the Ice Guys tonight. That's going to wrap up the show. A great Thursday show. Thanks to everyone for tuning in. Check out sportsbookreview.com for the live odds, free picks, free articles, sportsbook rating guide. Check out the links below to all of SBR's social media platforms and give the show a thumbs up if you liked it. And we sure hope you do. For Alex B. Smith, for Andrew McInnes, for Dana Lane, I'm Ian Cameron for Sportsbook Review. Good luck on the Thursday Night Ice. We'll be back Saturday, 9 a.m. Eastern for the next edition of the Ice Guys. Until then, enjoy the games and good luck.